All right, I'm going to call the meeting order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could have a moment of silence, please. Okay, we'll start. First of all, I want to thank everybody that came to the meeting today, and also for the people that are watching it. Appreciate you doing that, taking an interest in the government. On the roll call, I'm going to start. Today we'll still be starting with myself. I'm here. Doug?
Here.
Mr. Stephen?
Here.
Mr. Culberson?
Here.
Mr. Cos?
Here.
All righty. Public comment. I don't think we had any for this part, did we, Mark? I don't believe so.
Nothing on the agenda, public comment-wise.
Okay. On administrative business, before we go any further, y'all have probably received these. They're requests from American Legion, a request from Boy State, and something like that. And after talking with Mark, I thought we may come up with a way to address these. In the past, the county commissioners have not funded these, and then lately they have been funding. I was hoping maybe we'd get on a better, straight thing of what you have to do if you're going to apply for it. So, with that being said, Mark, I'll let you take this and see what the county commissioners think.
I think that what we discussed is the creation of an application form that requires a little bit of background information rather than just a letter saying, please fund our worthy cause, so that we get a little information on what other funds they're receiving, how they've funded it in the past, how often they've been for the county asking for these types of funds. I think what we want to try to avoid is getting in a position where these organizations, while they are very beneficial to some people in the community, they're not county-wide programs, and typically we try to fund programs that impact the entire county. We don't want them to get into the habit or to become reliant upon county funds, or their projects or programs can't continue. So I think a form would be the best way to maybe do that, so that we have a consistent request that the board could consider or not.
And I think I started last year that they have to match funds. So whatever the county gives them, they have to show that they come up with that same amount on their own.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't aware of that. Okay. Well, I guess the idea is just, if it's worthy to you, you'll take the time to fill the form out, and you'll bring it in front of this governing body. And I don't know where the rest of the county commissioners sit on thing. I think anything that helps the county, I'm kind of lean that way. But it is a funding issue, and we're going to see more of these, especially since COVID-19 we hope is going away, or at least getting under control. So it might be a good idea to give some background to the commissioners and to Mark on what they plan to do with it and which direction they're going. I know other communities do this, and it's worked well for them. So just something me and Mark bounced off each other, but I wanted to get y'all's input on it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we're going to have to, this is be discussed at budget time.
Okay.
As long as, of course, if our budgets are frozen and we can't allow for new construction to be added to our budget, then we're going to have to be really trimming.
Right. I agree.
So, question on this is, we had that $50,000 fund, and then we said that was absorbed primarily by the request from the county attorney, correct? That was the money we typically used for these type of things.
Yes, we took the money from that $50,000 to fund the county attorney's request.
So at the present time, we have no money, or do we have some left in that fund?
I think we won't know that because we don't know the range at which that employee will be hired, and then what benefits they may elect to take. Maybe they don't take any benefits, which then we don't have a cost for it, or maybe they take family, which is the greatest cost to the county, obviously. So I think the challenge is that we won't know probably for, let's say, 4 months whether or not we'll have any of those funds remaining.
So then the question, so does that put on hold us being able to do this for 4 months?
Unless you take it away from the road budget, or
So that's the
EMS
question.
Right. I think that you're right. Making a decision now is kind of difficult because we don't know where we'll be financially with that allocation. 4 months from now, we'll have a better idea whether there will be money left when a person actually is on and we start paying and whatnot. So then there may be funds available, but I would be hesitant again to fund anything until we know how that comes out.
Vicki, do you have something?
Yes, the treasurer brought something to my attention when the DECA students had come forward asking for funding, and it's something that I thought that we might want to at least put the information out there, is that we have the 888 funds. What is the group that just came before us for grant funding recently, that we approved grant funding for some different programs that are prevention, that alcohol and drug, the alcohol money, which is the 888 funds. That's what one of the requirements of that type of programming is that it address prevention type programming and services. And I'm thinking that perhaps we don't do a very good job in getting that out there, maybe updating our website and things so that people realize that annually that funding is available, because they have not. There is a balance in that fund because of the applications didn't come through to fund fully. So it's just something that I think we might want to encourage some of these organizations to look at applying to that source, to look at and consider some of these funding requests, because they do provide some of that type of funding throughout the year, or in that grant cycle. So, and I know that that's one of the things that the county commission looks at and approves, and they appoint the members of that committee. So, just an idea.
Would sports teams qualify?
They wouldn't qualify for that funding, no.
Well, I think it depends on how they pose and how they bring about that information and how they approach it, because prevention can entail a lot. That's why I can't say that it would absolutely not. I recall many years ago, there was a competitive jump rope team that received funding through that, or they had applied. And then there was a little bit of debate going back and forth about whether or not that was prevention, and whether or not those funds were eligible to be utilized in that way. And it was determined that yes, they are, because it's giving after-school activities and things that engage young people in positive behaviors and actions and alternatives is primary prevention.
Well, then any faith-based youth program would be eligible for that money.
I'm just saying it's something to look at. It's something for that committee to consider, because they get to make those determinations. And it's not that we're going to direct it, but it's just something to be considered that goes beyond the funding that the county commission has set aside.
I think that was one reason at the county commission. I think Doug makes a good point about budget time. I was just trying to see, we know these are going to come up. I was just wanting to let you know that if you decide to have a forum, at least you know who else is funding or not funding, or who we could direct them to maybe be able to get funding on certain issues that we decide not to fund. But it's definitely a funding issue. It's just that I know it's getting ready to start. I've already got a couple, and I know y'all have too. So I just wanted to throw it out there and get the conversation started, and that's all I wanted to start with today, though. So everybody's okay. We're going to head into budget. When we get to budget, we can get there. But do y'all want to task, Mark, with even developing a form right now just to have on standby, or would you rather wait?
I'd
That's
rather
okay.
wait to see what the legislature's going to do. No sense in
Okay.
extra work for the county administrator if it's just going to remain flat.
Mike?
Oh, as far as that,
Just wait.
you're going to have an application. If we do it,
Eventually.
we're going to have an application. And so I guess the decision will be if we're going to do it at all.
Now, if we were getting our local ad valorem tax money back, I'd say get that form started today.
That's right.
That's only 20 years ago, though, Doug.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
So does everyone want to hold off onto it until we get closer to budget cycle?
About half to.
I just, whenever Mark has the time to begin that
Right.
process, I know that you have some more pressing issues to tackle, but, just kind of have that on your radar.
Sure.
Okay. Good enough. Mark, did you have anything on administrative business that you wanted to address?
No, I don't have anything today.
Okay. Yes, Mike.
I had a question under administrative business on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that's been suspended. Can you kind of give any information you have on that? And also, what is the balance of the vaccines that we're giving at the health department right now, like between the various?
I think everybody's probably heard over the news that the CDC put out a recommendation to put the Johnson & Johnson vaccines on hold. I think they said there were 6 cases out of a little over 7 million doses that people developed some blood clotting. They're not sure that that's tied to the vaccine, but they're going to do their due diligence because of the newness of the vaccine and the speed at which it was approved. So obviously with CDC guidelines or suggestions that you hold it, I think probably everybody's put it on hold, and we certainly have. They will not offer it at any of our clinics until it's been cleared. I don't know the count we have currently on those. I think last week we had about 800 Johnson & Johnson vaccinations that were given, and probably 400 or 500 left. So I don't know if the state sent us more this week or not. I haven't touched base on that with Jamie. But we have primarily been giving the Moderna shots. We only made it an option last week for the first time that they could choose either, and I think about half chose the Johnson & Johnson shot. But this week it'll just be Moderna only. And based on last week's numbers and the amount of vaccines that we have on hand, I don't think that will put us in a bind on being able to administer vaccinations for people. But it might change some people's minds on whether or not they're going to come in and get the vaccination, because there are quite a few people who don't want the 2-shot regimen.
Second question I had is south of Tonganoxie, the Paradise Point Trailer Park, which under our new zoning, since we rezoned County Road 1, allows for the development of RV park, and that's what the developer wants to do. We don't have a policy on grandfathering or providing a time frame for allowing these folks to move out on a timely basis where we won't kick 33 people out overnight. What should be the procedure for us to develop that grandfathering or that exit strategy?
Well, Commissioner, currently they can remain a trailer park for as long as they'd like. There's no pressure on the county's part to kick these 33 people out of the mobile home park. That would be up to the person who owns the mobile home park if they would like to transition to an RV park. There is no process currently, and I'll let the county councilor speak to that allows for dual use in a zoning area. So how you would transition, I don't know. That would be something that the county councilor would have to look into, but I don't know that would be prepared to answer that today. We probably need to look into it a little more.
Well, I think we need to have because of the zoning, and we did change the zoning as a commission. That's an act that we took.
Yeah.
Because of the zoning, that now allows this developer to be allowed, the RV park is an allowed use. Mm-hmm. He wants to transition from the trailer park to the RV park, but we don't want to require these 33 folks to be exited immediately. How can we transition this? I think that's the question of what would be the right process.
Well, Commissioner, grandfathering is a matter of operation of law, not by local legislation from this commission. At the same time, this is private property. If the owner of that private property wishes to shift the use from a grandfathered use into one that is allowable under the current zoning, that's their prerogative. As to how they handle any lease contracts with their current tenants, that's really not a matter we can interfere with. But your county staff is aware of this. The owners have made inquiry as to whether they could have a mixed use. There is no provision for mixed use. You can't really have a grandfathered use in the same tract in which a new use that is incompatible with the grandfathered use exists. So the owner of the property needs to make a decision as to whether they will continue as a trailer park or transition to an RV park. But as far as the ability of the county to control the interaction between the owner of the property and any existing leaseholders, that's really a private matter. We will work with them, though, to try to develop some sort of a transition plan. And I think KDHE may have some concerns on that tract as well. I think it's a matter that we're going to have to spend some time on to report back to you.
Okay, so you'll bring that back to us.
If that's the desire of the Board of County Commissioners, we certainly
Well, let me just ask this, and me and you. It seems to me, Mike, that we're trying to do both at the same time. We're trying to grandfather part, and then we're trying to allow them to rezone or move it to a different thing with the RVs. I don't know if you can have it both ways. I think David the county council makes a valid point. I'm concerned about this, Mike. County council makes a valid point that it's the owner of the property. I don't see how we can get involved with what the owner's deciding to do after this governing body allows it to happen the way he wants. I mean, whoever the owner is, that's kind of their thing. At the same time, if I'm correct, and what I hear from Mark is, he doesn't have to move. They can stay there. There's no kicking out or moving down the road for anybody unless he desires. But to me, it's no different than someone else telling you that you can't do something with your property when it's zoned a certain way, and us being the overseer of that. And I don't think that's what we're supposed to do here. At the same time, I don't want to see anybody displaced, Mike. Don't get me wrong on that. But I'm just concerned about. I don't know if you can do both of them. Again, I'm not an attorney. I don't even play one here. But go ahead, Dave.
Well, if there's a plan to as the trailers move out and RVs move in or something like that, I agree. It's probably not. It wouldn't be to operate both. But if there's a plan to eventually transition to a full-blown RV park and not have any mobile homes in there,
yeah.
I mean, if you had a time frame and that.
And that's what we had kind of talked about as maybe giving.
And we did rezone it. We did rezone it for Lyle's RVs.
Okay. So. If we established a time frame, within 3-5 years, you've got to be out, but not to displace 33 people. So I guess if you could report back to us what our options are in that.
Well, Commissioner, I can tell you right now your options as to how to control that privately owned tract of ground lie within your zoning regulations. So I will look into it and prepare a report to the board.
Okay. Anything else, Mike?
Just two more things.
Sure.
Senate Bill 23, which is the tornado relief bill, did not make it in the regular session, but I did get a call from Representative Epperly from Atchison, and he's on the taxation committee, and he said they are going to still try to figure a way to get it through in the veto session. So if you're folks that are watching, keep calling your legislators and working on this. It's very important. And the question I posed to the county administrator about tornado issues, related to tornado issues, is I had some calls about folks in Tonganoxie who were asking what facilities, public facilities, are open when there is a tornado warning, and do we have a list of those? And then that got into the question of maybe we should have our emergency manager come up and kind of give us an update on what planning and procedures are being laid for tornado season upcoming.
I think he does.
I believe he holds
yeah.
weather alert seminars in the
Yeah, but I mean to report to us about, like, so I can tell people that, we visited about the tornado shelters, and he can tell us, we do have a list of the publicly open shelters, and I believe there was a review that was supposed to happen after the Leavenworth tornado, and we never did actually get to that. Is that correct?
I think the board had asked for a follow-up meeting. Chuck did come before the board and do a presentation after the tornado, but at that meeting, I think that the commission had asked for a kind of a wrap-up where what we learned, what we could have done better type thing, and had asked him to meet with some of the other emergency management folks down in that area. I think the fire chiefs specifically, maybe the chief of police in Tongi.
And then the pandemic hit.
And then come back and give the board an update from that. And I don't know that if that was delayed because of the pandemic or if it was just there wasn't a lot additional to add. But certainly this is a good time of year for the emergency manager to come before the board and give an update on anything that's related to that.
Okay. But they do updates on their Facebook page and on the website. That he does provide that type of information. So,
he does. How about when we get our FEMA money, we'll do a post.
Yeah, we can ask about the FEMA too. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other commissioner have anything before we move on?
Mr. Chairman, I have one thing. I was just wanting to know if either the county administrator or the county councilor could update us on the Ginger Creek where we had a couple folks hooked up that weren't in the sewer district.
Good morning, Commissioner Smith, members of the commission. Yes, I can provide you an update. On June 16th of 2020, the Board of County Commissioners, then sitting as the Board of Directors of Sewer District Number 5, directed me to send a letter to 2 property owners whose properties had been determined to be improperly hooked up to the facilities of Sewer District Number 5. These properties are remote from the boundaries of the sewer district. These properties were never included in the petition and the hearing process that created the sewer district, and these 2 properties have never contributed to either the assessments for the actual physical construction of facilities or the annual assessment for the operational costs of the sewer district. On that letter of June 16, 2020, the county stated that we would hold in abeyance for 60 days the disconnection of the 2 properties. By the way, a letter was sent to each property owner individually, and both property owners have acknowledged receipt of those letters. More than 60 days has passed. The county, I was made aware from the property owner that remains connected that there was litigation ongoing between themselves and the adjoining property. As a result of that, I will tell you, I did not undertake to confirm the initiation of the disconnection process. However, almost a year having gone by, the county, or I did send a letter to the affected property owner recently informing them that the disconnection would take place on April 14th, today. Last week I received a phone call from an attorney representing that property owner asking for some consideration. I took the liberty of informing them that the Board of Directors of Sewer District Number 5 had previously considered the issue of including that parcel of property into the sewer district, and at the hearing you conducted in 2020, you determined it was not in the best interest of the sewer district to do so, and that property needed to be disconnected from the sewer district. I believe that is still the mandate that I'm operating under. I did tell the attorney who contacted me representing the property owner that we would again hold into abeyance the disconnection of the property during such time, given that they would present to the board through me a plan to have a septic system installed so that when we did effect the disconnection, that the property did not become uninhabitable because of lack of sanitary sewer or wastewater treatment. So that's pretty much where we stand.
So you're waiting on a plan?
I My communication to the attorney representing the property owner was that I requested that they present a plan for the installation of a septic system so that the county can, or the sewer district can effect the disconnection without rendering the property uninhabitable. I'm doing that, quite frankly, without your direction, but I believe it would be the intent of the board to not work an undue hardship on this property owner. But given that almost a full year has passed since the disconnection letter was issued, that this matter does need to proceed. Again, the last meeting of the Board of Directors of Sewer District Number 5, conducted by this body sitting as that board, determined that that property should not be connected to the sewer district and it needed to be disconnected, physical disconnection take place.
Okay. But that's not happening today.
It's not happening today. And Commissioner, it's my intent, unless you direct otherwise, not to, without prior notice, which we've given on 2 prior occasions, and now we've extended a little bit, effect that disconnection. But at some point, at some point the disconnection has to occur, and given the time frame, I'm operating under the surmise that the direction of the Board of Directors of Sewer District Number 5 is that that disconnection occurs sooner rather than later.
Okay. So you'll keep us posted on anything that's presented?
I will keep you posted.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. In there. Okay. This consent agenda, is there anything in the agenda that needs to be looked at or pulled?
I make a motion we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Motion second to accept the consent agenda as presented. Any other comments? If not, I'll call the roll. Aye.
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 All right, passes 5-0. Next item is formal board action. Consider a motion to approve a lease agreement between Leavenworth County and Signature Behavioral Hospital operations for space at the Cushing Memorial Building.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, the county was approached by a private medical care provider for use of space at the former Cushing Memorial Hospital building. The proposed use is basically for the operation of an in- and outpatient psychiatric center. They've been very direct with their operational plans. Over the last several months, your staff has been in negotiation with that provider as to the actual space within the building they would need, the configuration and alteration of that space to make it amenable to their use, and the compensation that would be paid to the county for the use of that space. Your staff believes that the proposal before you is an end result that is beneficial to the county, provides the needed space, and allowances for the reconfiguration and alteration of that space for the potential user. And we'd ask that the board consider the approval of that lease agreement. The proposed lessee does intend to effect material alterations, not to the structure within the space, but significant investment in reconfiguration for use, office space, rooms, etc. It's a very significant investment, and in consideration of that, the county has worked out what I'll call a 2-tier system for the rentals. It's outlined in the RBA I presented to you, but in essence, for the first 5 years of the lease, the base rent would be at a reduced amount to allow the property owner to be assured that their investment in the property would not be in jeopardy, or the county to suddenly terminate the lease without cause. But for the remaining optional phases of the lease agreement, the base rent increases significantly. And even during the reduced period of time, the base rent is not inconsiderable. The lessor would pay for any additional utility services that they have used in their premises, cable TV, internet, et cetera, et cetera. The county would basically serve as a traditional landlord. We believe that the lease has been thoroughly examined. This has been going on, as I said, for the last several months. We believe the proposal before you is the end result of those discussions. And again, it is, in my opinion, that this is a favorable outcome for the county.
Anything? Vicki, Jeff?
Yeah, I like it. I think this answers a lot of questions the public had about who's going to pay the utility bills, who's going to pay for the remodeling. Well, this is the answer. I checked with the county appraiser. We don't lose our exemption on taxes for the building as long as you use it for medical purpose. Who we lease to is medically related. The only question I had about it was item 34 on the lease agreement. Is that designed, that's the right of first refusal for the fourth floor, is that designed for them to use the fourth floor for themselves or for them to sublease to other doctors or medical?
Commissioner, that's a very valid point, and it was considered. The right of first refusal contained in Section 34 begins in operation if the county is approached by a potential lessee. If the county is approached. If the county has any intentional use of that property on its own, then Section 34 never comes into operation.
Okay.
However, should an outside entity approach the county with respect to leasing the fourth floor, the lessee under this lease would have the right to basically first refusal. They would have to match or exceed any proposed lease payments under that. With respect to any subletting, the master agreement, that is the lease agreement before you, does provide that they could sublet to either another corporate entity within their corporate umbrella or an outside agency, but it would require your consent.
On the third floor? Yes. They could sublet on the third floor?
I believe they would also control for the fourth floor.
And I guess what I'm getting at is we've kind of already been approached for the fourth floor space. So would this group want to do the remodeling and sublease to other entities, or are they wanting to use it for their own purposes?
Well, Commissioner, that's a completely new topic. And, I would suggest that given the fact that the proposed lessee under the agreement before you has firm plans to begin the renovation process with the intent to begin the actual operation of their facilities next year, that delaying the approval of this lease to examine that issue might take several months, because now we have a third party interposed as well. My thought is that all things considered, at this point in time, the best interest of the county would be to leave Section 34 in play. If the county is approached, then Section 34 does come into play, but then it would be more or less a bidding process between the two proposed, well, the lessee for the third floor and the proposed lessee for the fourth floor. The winner gets the right to pay you rent for that property.
They just have the option, center point of the first opportunity to
and Commissioner,
continue.
There's nothing in Section 34 that says you have to do anything with the fourth floor.
All right. Well, I was hoping that what they wanted to do was them sublet the fourth.
The idea behind that right of first refusal, when in our discussions with them, is they have a potential use for the fourth floor. They just don't know now if they'll need it. It was more of a
contingency.
To access that fourth floor, the primary access will be through their area, and they looked at potentially using it for food services for them. And before we released it to another agency, they wanted to make sure they had opportunity to discuss whether or not that was what they wanted to do. But they didn't have any intention of subletting it, of improving it and then subletting it. That was not what that discussion was. While the agreement may allow for that, that's not what they were intending when they were asking at this time.
Well, like I said, I like everything about this except Section 34 because that's kind of tying our hands on what we can do with the fourth floor then.
Well, not necessarily, because if they can't match or exceed someone else's bid to use that proposal for it, then
that's true.
They give up that option.
First right refusal.
It just gives them the opportunity to make a determination whether or not they want to move forward with leasing the
Okay, that makes sense.
fourth floor.
Mr. Cullerton, again, you raise a very, very valid point, and that was an issue that was discussed among your staff and the proposed lessee at length. In essence, the way it's designed to operate would be if a third party wanted to lease out the fourth floor, it would more or less be a bidding war between that proposed lessee, the current lessee, between them as to who's going to pay the most to you, with, again, your option to not do anything with the space.
I got you.
And whoever would lease it, if it's not the county, it's going to be on them to do any improvements that take place on
Yeah, and that's why I was asking
floor.
if they're intending on remodeling it and leasing it to other entities or not. Okay. That makes sense.
Jeff, do you have anything else on that?
Nope.
Vicki?
Commissioners,
Yeah.
one issue, just for more or less for the public concern, this property will be a psychiatric care facility. However, its entryways, both external and internal, are secured much in the same fashion as the Justice Center or this building would be controlled with the use of security fobs. In other words, the public will not be able to just walk in the doors of these premises, nor would any of the tenants in the other parts of the building be able to access those premises, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So there are security concerns that have been addressed within their planned reconfiguration.
And David, I saw that what some of the commissioners had, and I read in there that was one of our concerns, something like that, and it looks like it's been addressed in here that isolating or put them in a different way where they can't walk in was a big concern, and I saw that was addressed in there. So,
and there is no planned or expressed interest in any use of the facility for any correctional use.
And
right.
I think that it needs to be reminded to the public in general that the Cushing facility in the past has been used for that specific purpose.
Already.
And it was closed by St. Luke's due to funding concerns, and the services were moved over to North Kansas City, St. Luke's facility, when that occurred. So that use has been established in the past. It's not something new for the community,
Right.
and there's never been an issue.
right.
I have a question for David. If this Behavioral Hospital Operations LLC of Missouri would assign, delegate, or sell their organization, say to HCA or some other hospital organization or some other organization, what does this automatically transfer?
For practical purposes, yes. We cannot unjustifiably refuse the transfer as long as they continue to make the lease payments, as long as they continue to abide by the terms of the underlying master lease agreement. Yes, they do. When they pay for a lease, they obtain certain rights, one of which is to potentially transfer that lease. But the lease is constructed so that if that occurs, one, you need to be provided notice and the opportunity to object to that. In order to object effectively, you would have to have some reasonable grounds to object. However, after that, they are still bound by all of the same obligations to the county that the underlying leaseholder was. So
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah,
but
it does. Yeah. That's all I have.
Doug, did you have
Commissioner Stephen, I'll answer this way. Maybe. How's that?
That's a good lawyer's answer.
common?
No, Mr. Chairman, the only concern, I think this is a great deal. It's going to pay the utilities and all that. I just want to make sure that we still have room to house everybody we wanted to house in there so we can stop paying rent.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point, Doug. Okay, if there's no other thing, I'll get a motion.
I move to approve a lease agreement between Leavenworth County and Signature Behavioral Hospital Operations for space at the Cushing Memorial Hospital building. Do I need to give the details of
You need amounts? No, I second that.
Yeah, located at 711 Marshall Street, yeah. Is that, okay, I think we're good with that.
Okay. And Jeff second.
Jeff, you got a second?
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion on this issue?
Well,
Go ahead, Mike.
I would just say one thing is when we took this facility, one of the things we wanted to do was make sure that the taxpayers were not going to have to
Absolutely.
endure
Absorb
too much.
expenses.
And this is one way that we can ensure that it comes to be, and then we keep that commitment to the taxpayers.
I think.
And I think this is a good deal.
I think it's a win-win for everybody, really. I'm glad to see this happen.
I agree.
Any more comments before we call a roll?
Yeah, the point was to stop paying rent for
Yeah.
Council on Aging.
Yeah.
And so we want to get into something that way.
It's
Once
just a
that
bonus.
lease is completed, that will be
Yeah.
And have government run
Accomplished.
like a business.
That's all right.
Okay. I'll start the roll call. Aye.
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 All right. It is completed. We got an executive session. Before we do any of that stuff, though, I
Do
wanted
we
to.
have a printout on that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Jeff, then.
Is it possible to go ahead and move?
That's what I'm doing.
on?
That's what I'm doing.
Are you ready for that?
No.
No.
I'm going to ask, I'm going to go ahead. I hate to take people waiting on us when we go in executive session.
Yeah, okay.
So, Mr. Klemp, if you want to address the county commissioners. Thank you, sir.
Bring back so many memories about sewers. 1978, 92, sewers have been a massive problem. But that doesn't have anything to do with me on my subject. My name is Louis Klemp. I live at 1816 Pine Ridge Drive, Leavenworth, Kansas. I'm going to talk fast, which means I probably won't get everything said that I need to say. I'm not here about money. I'm here about foresight, not hindsight. First city of Leavenworth, or the first city in the territories, Leavenworth. First city in the states, Leavenworth. What started in, anybody know what started in 1803? Gosh, we had to memorize that. Oh, you never asked David.
I'm not going to tell because I heard you yesterday, so. I said, I'm not going to tell because I heard you yesterday.
Okay, 1803.
That's cheating.
Okay, I don't remember it actually, but it was a Louisiana Purchase. We picked up 828,000 square miles, doubled the size of the Republic, 530,000 acres, 3 cents an acre. I'd like to get a little bit of that today. February 1827, Henry Leavenworth came in. Okay, Leavenworth got here in 1854. There's nothing official that says that, other than maybe a little documentation. That's what I'm trying to get done. I've talked to a legislator, talked to Leavenworth yesterday. I would like something to show. I know people think houses bring in income to they don't support what infrastructure is next required. Business is probably a little bit closer, but not homes. It just, has anybody ever seen the taxes go down? I've been here since 1938, and I don't think my grandparents ever saw it. I don't think I ever saw it. Taxes don't go down. It's more expensive. We've got salaries, got things we've got to take care of. I feel the federal, the state, the county, Leavenworth, and the other cities should get behind an effort to make the first city recognized, and the other cities also recognize that, because they all have museums. The little lady was in the paper the other day. I always like these little ladies. They work their life away, and I think her name was Leonard. Mary Leonard, the Baser Museum. You know, can't get enough money to support and their effort down there to pay utilities. You brought that subject up. Everybody knows that there's a time to apply for funds, and they can know at that time. They should apply. They should say what they're going to do with their funds. I've always said this, and at the end of their time, when their funds should have been expended, the county should say, have you spent your money, and how did you spend it? Well, we bought soda pop and popcorn. Well, you said you were going to buy pizza. So you're really not doing what you said you were going to do. Mike Urban, no relation to anybody I know in town, made a wonderful remark, and I probably should have had my glasses. Other than that, I'm speculating on what he said, but I'll put them on. I'm sure he's a bear. And it says, I see this city, he's talking about Leavenworth now, with its forgotten past, has so much potential to be a greater attraction than our neighboring cities. Now, I don't think he was referring to Lansing, Easton, Baser, Tonganoxie, or Linwood. I think he was referring to Kansas City, other cities around the area, Lawrence. And Lawrence will always go along with what it's got. we have prisons. I refer to Leavenworth as the diamond in the rough. This period was actually was where and when the actual West began. Anybody wanted something, they came to Leavenworth to get it. They didn't go to St. Louis. They didn't go to St. Joe. They came to Leavenworth. It didn't matter what it was. Leavenworth produced it. So, but you know, you have so many museums in Leavenworth, and they've all been helped, and I'm sure they're all very appreciative of what the county has done. The county has done a lot. I don't know if the cities have done as quite as much as the county. The National C.W. Parker Leavenworth Historical Museum, Leavenworth County Historical Society, the National Fred Harvey, Richard Allen Cultural Center, Tonganoxie Community Historical Society, Stranger Creek Church, Baser, and many other organizations. I'm sure I missed a Carroll Mansion there. So what I'm trying to do is to get somebody to have some foresight, to understand whenever you went to a movie and we said, Doug, with what you've done, we're sending you to Leavenworth. You know what that was. If you were in the military, you know what that was. If you weren't in the military, you knew what that was. You were going right up the street up here. You were going to Leavenworth. Never in a movie did I ever hear, unless they were talking to Machine Gun Kelly or the Birdman privately, did I ever hear, you're going to Alcatraz. Oh. Now they had one in Indianapolis, one in Pennsylvania, one in Baltimore prison. But when you're going to Leavenworth, now they're getting ready to close, I'm sure, the Leavenworth prison up there. They're going to build a new one. That's good. That one's a little bit outdated, but I don't think they're going to close the whole thing. They're going to keep wing 1 and 2 or A and B, or what they're called. That's going to be a museum up there. And it's a shame that we need to get our foot into the museum ahead of time, not wait till after the fact to say, hey, that's a warning. Okay, I'll try to cut it short. If you give me one more minute.
Go ahead, Louis, one more minute. Let's go. You got it.
You can cut my legs off.
Go ahead.
So, we need to get our foot in the door. We need to get our foot in the door. The steamship Arabia is still looking. We need to get our foot in the door for the Fort Leavenworth Museum. It's closed down. Not due to their fact. It's closed down because nobody wants to go down to the little shack to sign in, to go up and see their mother, which I have to do. I'm not going to go down there and sign in. Go see my mother up the fort. So I think that somebody in one of the capacities needs to move ahead with some foresight to see what's going to be happening in Leavenworth rather than sewers, roads, bridges, and the things that are very effective in people's lives. But Tonganoxie, that they might want that down there because that's a society they like. So,
okay.
And if anybody ever wants to read it, that's 440 pages on a gentleman by the name of Fred Harvey.
Yeah.
He was a major inputter of the community and of the state. So the museums, thank you. I'm working for no museum specifically. I'm right now looking for all of them. So
thank you, Mr. Clem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now to Jeff.
Who's the author of that book, the Fred Harvey book? Who's the author of that book?
Well, I'm going to pronounce it the way I think it's pronounced. I don't think he would want to be called Fried. It's Stephen Fried. Wonderful book. I bought 20 of them just to pass out to all the historians. We have a lot of historians in Leavenworth. If you'd like one, sure.
Thank you, Louis.
Thanks, Lou.
Well, that'd be good because if you ever have any questions, your county attorney would be, not county attorney, your county
Counselor.
Senior
County council.
Oh, okay.
Senior.
Let's see if I have an unmarked one. If not, I'll relinquish, since I bought 20 of them, to pass out. And you'll wonder why I highlighted those pages. I'll just see what last pages I was reading. X1X.
Commissioner, I will consider any of your marks as a window into your mind.
Okay, before we turn, let's not go that direction.
Just make sure it's closed.
Thank you.
Throw a basket around.
Did the other guy have any?
Does anybody else in the audience want to speak on anything? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clump.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board recess from open session and go into closed executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel as justified by KSA 75-4319B1 and to protect the privacy and interests of the persons involved, and that this board resume open session at 10:05. Is that enough time? 15 minutes?
Yeah, that's I think so.
Resume meeting at 10:05. President of executive session will be Commissioners Culberson, Cos, Doug Smith, Mike Stephen, and County Administrator Mark Loffery.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. I'll start the roll call. Aye.
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 All righty. Okay, the board has returned to regular session at 10:05 a.m. No action was taken and no decisions were made. The subject was limited to non-elected personnel. So we're back in open session, and we'll get to additional public comment if needed. Oh, I'm going to bring up something just real quick. I had the opportunity to the outgoing garrison commander, Fort Leavenworth, and I got to be pretty good friends because we wanted to do things together when I was the mayor in Lansing. And I had lunch yesterday, and he helped us with the forms that y'all were filling out after I talked to Mark about what things they could help us with, and so y'all fill those out and get them back. We'll be in good shape. Also, I put an invite out to them that when the new garrison commander comes in the next 60 days, something like that, just to bring them up here and introduce them to the county commissioners at one of our meetings, so we could do that, and so they could get to know us and everything like that. But good last 2 years. They usually stay 2 years, and he was just great to work with. Even though the COVID thing shut everything down, we couldn't do the things that we'd all planned to getting everybody together to do. But he's a good guy, and he'll be missed. And that's all I have, Jeff.
I don't have anything.
Vicki.
Well, I participated by Zoom in the LCDC meeting last week, and it was a productive conversation, and they expressed appreciation for the committee and the work that's being done by the committee with the Board of County Commissioners, and plan to continue to work and update on that. We have tomorrow a JCAB meeting coming up, so Commissioner Smith and I will be participating in that. Last night, listened in on the City Commission meeting, and as I said, there's nothing that was substantial to report. They approved a couple of contracts and made some awards and proclamations. They also did a proclamation for child abuse prevention and Library Week, and communications for the people out there doing the dispatching and things. And that's something that we probably need to talk about that here. That was great. That's a good thing. And thank you to our dispatchers at the county level as well. Y'all do a fantastic job. I think that's it.
Okay. Doug?
Before you started, we approved several appointments today on the consent agenda. I think we need to recognize these people some way. So that the commission send a letter and sign. Appreciate donating their time to serve on these boards. I mean,
Well, I tell you,
go ahead and
Doug, why don't you just go ahead and read the names too? You got it probably.
Okay. We have Mary Mack, Brandon Johannes, Camelia Leonard. To the Wyandotte Leavenworth Area Advisory Council representing the Council on Aging. We have also appointed Carolyn Schaefer for Leavenworth County Council on Aging Advisory Board, and we reappointed Jess Filbert, Charles Williams, and Tom McAvoy to the Leavenworth County Council on Aging Advisory Board. Just want to thank these folks for stepping up and giving their time to serve on these boards. It's very important that we have people do this. I know a lot of people don't serve like they used to, but I appreciate that. And like Commissioner Cos says, we have a JCAB meeting tomorrow, and I have Baser tonight. I thought I had it last week was the second Wednesday, but it was the first. So anyway, so I did not attend Basher last week. I'll be attending there tonight.
Thank you, Doug. Mike?
I attended the Linwood City Council meeting a week ago, Tuesday, I guess it was, and gave them some information about what we talked about with the road situation. Another thing I wanted to express appreciation. Sometimes, I still have a full-time job on the railroad, and sometimes it's very intense. Scheduling is intense, and sometimes I get my wires crossed. And last Thursday was one of those times. I had a meeting scheduled that I thought was this Thursday, and I scheduled it for last Thursday. Ended up on a train, and I would like to express appreciation to Commissioner Culberson for stepping in and coming in and doing that meeting for me, and I really appreciate that.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Working together.
No problem.
Okay.
So now he got to drive the train now?
At least you get
Offered to do that today.
I told him I would take him out for a steak
That's
dinner.
only fair, Mike.
When he called, I said, "So you want me to drive the train?" He's like,
Jump on that.
It happened to me last week. I swore I had the Baser meeting last week. There's just so many meetings.
There's a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have anything else?
every
That's it.
other night.
Hey, listen, one thing I just want to bring back up on alibi. Doug is absolutely correct, and I apologize for not reading names when we first did it. Volunteers are everything, and they are so hard to get to come step forward now in today's world for some reason. But the folks that volunteer that do it, whether it's this or other appointments or other places they do it in the county for cities, something like that, you people keep us going. So please, we know that we appreciate everything you do when you come out and assist like that, and especially at the county level with these ones we just saw. So, Doug, thanks for bringing that to my attention. And is there, Mark, did you have anything else?
I don't. No.
Take a motion to adjourn then.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. I'll start. Aye.
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 We are adjourned.